So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sanjeev Mota from BNK Securities. On behalf of BNK, I welcome you all to this session on manufacturing leaders. We have with us the team from Carborundum Universal, CUMI. We have Mr. Padmanabhan, CFO, and Mr. Chandramoli. And we will be joined very soon by Mr. Ananthaseshan. But I think we'll just start, and we'll kind of get him involved as soon as he joins also. We also have Kunal Seth, who is the head of our sector. And so, sir, the way we'll do it is I'll ask a few questions on macro and strategy, and then Kunal will ask on the more detailed questions on company.
Okay.
And we'll also have, if time permits, we'll have participants putting in their questions, although we have some questions already that have come in. So we'll ask those questions as well, right? So that's okay. So, sir, I guess the most topical question I'll start with is, I guess, the current Russia situation, especially given that you all have a pretty big presence there in terms of a plant, and a lot of sales also happens, I guess, to EU from that plant. So where are we on that? What is the on-ground situation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good evening to all. As far as the Russian subsidiary is concerned, the exact situation is that nothing is happening on the Russian soil. The aggression is happening only in the Ukraine. None of our products are the entity, are the employees, are directors are coming under the sanction list. We are out of sanction list, and the setup is that the entire input material, the fuel and the energy is made out of our own sources. We have our own mines in Russia, therefore the input raw material is coming from those mines, and therefore there is no impact from this aggression. As far as the domestic sales is concerned, it is around 50% plus, and the exports will be balanced 30% to Europe and 20% to India and other Asian countries. In respect of the domestic sales, it is going good, and the production is in full swing. Nothing has been impacted. The employees are coming, and so far there is no impact of the war at this point of time. In respect of the sales within the domestic land, it is happening. Nothing has been impacted, and the sales to Europe, it is because of the logistics reasons has been there is a challenge, and we are finding out the ways to reroute it through the countries like, say, Finland, who are not affected by the sanctions, though they are part of EU. The route through Finland, we can sell it to the other part of the Europe. That is still there. And in respect of the exports to Russia and other Asian parts, the government of India is talking with the Russian government to open the sea route, wherein through the Caspian Sea, it will reach Iran, and from the northern Iran, through trucks, it will be transported to the bottom south side, and from south, say Bandar Abbas, it will reach Indian ports. This is the plan which is being worked out by the Indian government, and we expect that this will soon come into some solution will come, and it will address the requirements of India and other parts of Asia. And we are also working on with the logistic companies to see whether there are any opportunities to take it through Turkey to the other parts of Europe and the other parts, other exports. So these are all the things which have been worked out. And in respect of the banking, the collections and all are routed through the bankers, which are not affected by the sanctioned list, and therefore no banking operations is being affected. Both the incoming collections as well as the outgoing payments are going without any difficulty. And in respect of the currencies, whatever we had in dollars and euros have already been converted into local rubles. And fortunately, our Russian subsidiary is a debt-free company, and we don't have any debt at this point of time. And in fact, it's a company with a cash surplus. Now that the interest rates have mounted 20% plus, it is benefiting us in the form of interest. So it is adding to our profits to some extent. And earlier, because of the long-term contracts with the European customers, we were not able to supply to the incremental part in the domestic Russia itself. So those customers we are addressing now, and we feel that the gap on the European exports can be compensated by way of the sales in by way of increasing the domestic sales in Russia. And similar to the Atmanirbhar in India, Russian government is also encouraging the companies within Russia. They are encouraging the local production so that the economy is going on in full swing. So it is also helping us to increase the domestic sales front. And we feel that the demand from the local industries will fill the gap, which is presently the say like exports to Europe. In respect of the other exports, as soon as the sea route is opened, it will help us and then continue the operations to that also. This is how the present situation is, and it is under control. And we feel that nothing is getting impacted, and the situation will improve going forward.
Sir, but as you said, like Russia's sales is probably slightly more than 50%. Rest is this. So would you see at least some impact in terms of sales, and would that impact the bottom line at all, or you think that right now that's not what is happening?
Yeah, as I said earlier, because of the long-term contracts with the European customers, we were not able to address the demand from the local customers in respect of the say refractory market, the steel suppliers, steel customers, and other engineering industries in Russia. It is because of the logistics reasons they are not able to import from other countries, and that is filling the gap. So we feel that the demand from the domestic industries will increase, and it will to some extent it will offset the gap which has arisen out of the logistics challenge in the European exports.
Right. So also in terms of currency, right, at least from a translation perspective, there would be an impact, right?
Yeah, in the financial statements of the Russian subsidiary WA, there will not be any impact at all.
Yeah.
In respect of the consolidated at the QMI level, we go with the average rate for the profit and loss account. Up to December, the rates were good, and at this point of time, there is a reduction of around say 20 to 25% reduction is there, which will not impact for the current year because it is going by the average rates. Since the first 9 months will be at higher average, it will get to a greater extent, it will get compensated. We feel that the impact will be around less than 2%. It will be around 1.5 to 2% basis. That will be the reduction, and which will get compensated on the ruble front. Therefore, we don't see any impact during the current year. Going forward, yes, in Q1, we feel that because it will impact the translation to the extent of 20 to 25%, subject to, of course, the rates are volatile, and then it can change and then improve further and go back to the same one. If it is not improving at the present level, yes, it will have a bearing of around, say, 20%.
Right. So, but assuming that if this goes on and maybe Russia gets a bit more isolated, are you thinking of some kind of a plan B in terms of how to use this, or right now that's not the thought process at all?
Yeah, see, we are not solely dependent on the Russian entity for our raw material requirements. We have our own source in India. Our electrominerals business can, to a greater extent, secure the raw material or the requirements of the abrasive and refractories internally, and so the impact because of the closure of war may not impact the standalone operations in QME.
Right. Sure. Kunal, if you have any further question on this, if you can maybe ask that, and otherwise I'll kind of move to something else.
Yes, sir. I think most of it is covered. We just wanted to understand, that what is the long term? I mean, is there a plan B? Like you said, you were looking at alternative routes. But will there be need to be more local now, given the changes in geopolitical scenario, or there, things should come back to normal once, this war situation subsides?
Yeah, it will. We feel that this may not go for a longer time, and it will get some solution will come, say within the next fortnight, and therefore it will improve. But see, it's a guess. Like any other persons, we are also have to see how the war goes, and then we need to decide on that. As far as the operations is concerned, at this point of time, nothing has been impacted. It is getting offset to a greater extent by the domestic sales itself, and therefore, at the company level, at the Russian company level, it will not have an impact. Of course, it will have a bearing on the translation. For the current year, it may not affect anything. In respect of the next year, it will have a bearing, and we feel that this is only a temporary phenomenon and it will not hold good for a longer time. In case if it does, then we need to wait and watch how it behaves, and then we can take it forward from that. And now that the government of India is interfering and then working on releasing the route between India to Russia, then that will be a game changer wherein we can export to India and other Asian countries. And of course, we can work around and then see how we can supply to the other parts of the globe also. That can also be done.
Sure, thanks.
Sir, in terms of again, if you look at the Russia business, was Russia importing also from outside? And maybe would you be able to cater to that part of it, or it was like you were?
The import content by the Russian entity is almost negligible. It is almost nil. It is self-contained. The main raw material, the sand is being procured domestically, and then it is used domestically. We have our own mines which are owned by the Russian company. Therefore, there is no requirement to go in for an outside supply. The energy is also available. The gas is also available inside, and there is no dependency on the imports at all.
Right. No, but I think my question was slightly different, which was that Russian customers that you have, were they also importing, you think, or in that case you can supply them?
Yeah, they were importing. They were importing. They were importing because we were not, even though we were in the Russian soil, we were not in a position to sell to them because of their long-term contracts with the European customers. Now that that channel is blocked, they are dependent on the industries in Russia itself. So it's an opportunity for us. Instead of supplying to the European customers, we can supply to them.
Okay. And one question that has just been sent to me was that in terms of economics of the Russian subsidiary, from a gross margin or a fixed cost perspective, any thoughts on that will be great. Like, what were the margins? Were they higher than the consolidated business? And in terms of fixed cost, so basically trying to understand if there is a fall in sales, how much impact is there?
It is almost on par with the standalone business margins, and
Right.
it is not different in a significant manner.
Even EBITDA margins.
Yes.
Okay. Fair. So, I guess I was just told that Mr. MD will take some more time. I guess he's been called for a meeting. So we'll just continue as is.
Yeah,
Right?
sure.
Yeah, great. Actually, just moving to the acquisitions, and one of the ways that the growth has come is from acquisitions, and you've just done a couple of acquisitions in Germany.
Right.
Just one thought, given the experience of South Africa, and also given that we've seen a lot of Indian companies not do very well when they acquire outside. There have been lots of cases like that. Of course, there are some success stories. What
Yes.
is giving you guys comfort that that will actually play out
Mm.
well? And what do these companies bring on table?
Yeah, if you could see our bigger acquisition was the Volsky Abrasive, which was done in 2007, and it has proved to be a successful acquisition. And we are the second largest producer of silicon carbide in the world, and we enjoy around say 10 to 12% of the global share in the silicon carbide market is concerned. And we feel that the M&A is not new to us. And the fact of the South African acquisition is entirely different. There, the input cost have a bearing, and the input cost, though it was available in the domestic South African region itself, the pricing was linked to dollar terms. Therefore, the exchange fluctuation affected the cost and therefore impacting the margins. That's an entirely different fact. And there also what we have done is, now that the raw material has been linked back to the South African rand, therefore the exchange risk has been avoided, and it is showing us profits for the past 2 quarters. And going by the current trend and increase in the commodity prices and the rise in the demand will necessarily bring in profits, and say within a matter of 18 months, we will be able to get break even from that company. In respect of the acquisition of the recent acquisitions in Germany, it's a different thing. See, both the companies have been acquired under the abrasive segment. As far as the abrasive segment is concerned, the local presence is very important. Without the local presence, the companies cannot survive in the abrasive market. That is why, if you see in India also, we are predominant. The market is predominantly covered. The standalone abrasive is predominantly caters to the domestic market. Like that, the companies which we have acquired in Germany will cater to the markets in Germany as well as the European market over there. And it is already established. It has got brands. It has got very good distribution channels, and the market is well accepted. The product quality is there, and it's a ready-made market. So we feel that the success will continue in this acquisition also.
So you would say that the main reason to acquire these companies was that they bring ready-made product with clients, so that you can actually have some more, you can sell more products to these same clients, or how does that? What's the
Yeah,
thought?
that is one of the main advantage. The second, of course, the synergy benefit is also there. The product offerings given by the new companies will fill the gaps in the products which are supplied at this point of time from the QMIS angle. And This will bring in the synergy benefits. The say Rhodius is already have an established distribution network. The QMI products can be sold interstate using the Rhodius network in the other parts of the world. Like that, the Rhodius products can be sold within the Indian market and the Asian markets. So it is a win-win strategy, and then the synergy benefits as well as the existing market. So it's a double benefit for the current acquisition.
Right. And you would think that the economics over next couple of years would start looking similar to the Indian business?
Correct.
Sure.
Correct. In a minimum, at least to the minimum extent, the existing pattern will continue, and both the growth, it's an aggregation of both the top line as well as the bottom line, and we feel that whatever the profit margin will be on the upward trend, and it will not be the other way.
Right. Sure. Kunal, you wanted to ask something on this, right?
Yeah, hi, sir. Sir, I just wanted to understand specifically on these two acquisitions. One was that are these companies profitable with mid-teen margins, or they're still yet to turn around?
See, in respect of say the first acquisition, Avuco Abrasives was in liquidation. That is why we have not acquired the company per se. We acquired the assets of the company along with its employees, its distribution network, its customers, etc. And we are continuing the production on our own. So it will address the market relating to the leather and that of the steel industries, and to some extent woodworks. So this is how the Avuco Abrasive will cater to that market. And in respect of the Rhodius, we have entered into a share purchase agreement, and the transaction will get complete by 31st of March, and then we will be in a position to comment upon the profits only after that.
Sure. Sir,
But one hint is that the company, the company Rhodius is an already existing company enjoying the market as well as the profits at this point of time, and therefore the same thing will continue.
Sure. But sir, over a medium term, how should the Indian entity benefit out of this acquisition? Can we use the Indian base to leverage the cost here? And for example, can jumbos be built here and sent there? What's thought on that?
Yeah, the synergy benefit of sending the jumbos and then converting it in the local geographies is well thought out, and then we will be doing that also.
Sure.
Yes, instead of selling the converted product and fitting to the customer specification, it may not be feasible if you are selling from India. Instead, if you are selling in the jumbo form and then getting it converted in the local geographies to meet the customer specification, that would be a better choice than selling the product per se. This will be a real value addition, and it will save the carrying cost of the inventory both ways, and it will help. It will ensure that the products are made available at the time when it is demanded by the customer, so that the demand is not left out. It is addressed at the time.
Sure. Using is there a number that you're putting out in terms of the synergy or cost benefit, or it's too early?
At this point of time, it is too early.
Sure. Thank you.
So, but overall, from a profitability perspective, will this once you kind of put these numbers come together, will it dilute the profitability, you think, or it won't have that kind of impact?
It will be only in the upward trend, and not it will not dilute the existing profits. At the minimum level, on a conservative basis, it will the current existing demand the existing profitability margins will continue. I'm going by a conservative model, and of course it will be on the upward trend only.
But return ratios may suffer a bit to start with, but I guess that it takes time, right? So to
No, it will be offset by the synergy benefits, which
okay.
is happening in both the geographies. The Rhodius products and the Abuco products will get introduced in the Indian market and the Asian market. Similarly, the Qmi's products will fill the gaps in the Abuco and Rhodius. So it will offset the near term hit in the say in the cost or the model.
Sure. So talking about cost, power and fuel is almost like 10% of your cost, at least last annual report, if I look at the last numbers.
Hmm.
Do you, given what is happening, right now to power and fuel across the sector, are you able to pass on that kind of cost, or you think that will kind of at least hurt next few months or next few quarters?
Yeah, if you could see the past 12 months, there were challenges. First, it started with the COVID and then went on the increase in the input cost, and then which was again with the increase in the energy cost, and then of course the fuel cost increase was also there earlier. So at each and every point of time, we convinced the customers and then increased our prices. Of course, there will be a time lag between the cost push and that of the pass on to the ultimate customers. But the frequency of the increases, of course, the customers may not agree for the frequent increase in the prices. And we feel that there is no other go. We need to go to the customer and then convince them, because it has to be a feasible model. If the cost increases, unless otherwise it is passed on to the ultimate customers, then it will impact our profits. And we are confident that we can convince the customers, and then we can take it forward as we do now.
Sure, sir.
There will,
So,
of course, there will be a time lag of
course, yeah.
maximum of 2 to 3 months.
Right. Okay. Sure, sir. So coming to, one of the things that you've actually in your annual report, you are making a comment that as mechanization increases, your coated abrasives will actually do well and going on. And now we have these PLI schemes that have been announced where we, of course, the manufacturing standards will be much better. Plus, I think there's on autos and on electronics. Overall, how does this kind of impact? What is, you think, would it make your value-added products do better? What happens to your growth margins? Any comments on that?
Yeah, if you compare the products of Qmi vis-a-vis the other items available in the mass market, say if you compare with the Chinese supplies as well as with the unorganized the supplies made by the unorganized players, one thing is always our prices were high. It is because of the quality reasons. We concentrate on the quality. We don't want to compromise on the quality front. We ensure that the product is good, and we ensure that it never fails even during the worst circumstances or the worst usage. So that confidence will give the ultimate customers one is the reliability of the product. Second thing is the availability, and third thing is even at say a bit higher prices also, it satisfies their requirement. So considering these advantages, the niche of our products will continue.
Right. So, but what I was trying to understand was with the PLI schemes on these new growth areas, do you think if we look at, let's say, a growth over, would that mean a growth in top line? That would mean a growth in margins? How would you think, as these more opportunities, these opportunities come in?
Yeah, the PLI scheme and the Atmanirbhar scheme announced by the government has increased the demand by the the ultimate users in the certain industries which has been listed in the PLI scheme, and we are catering to almost 8 of the industries in the PLI scheme. So the demand will increase only. Demand will increase, and it will ensure that the sale of our products will increase because of the PLI scheme.
Right. So what I wanted to also understand, would that increase the, so if you look at your products, there are two kinds of products, right? You have value added, what you call slightly more value added products versus a bit more commodity. Do you think it will be more value added products that will get sold and hence that will have a positive impact on the margins?
Yeah, now that because of all these schemes, the projects have the projects and the capex expansions are increasing. The growth in the auto sector, the growth in the construction, the growth in the steel industry, the growth in the engineering and the bearing industries are there. And you could see, you could feel the demand is on the higher, on the increasing trend.
Right. Sir, if you look at the abrasive market, and there's a question that has come, abrasive market, out of the 4,500 crores abrasive market, 1,700 crores was imports in FY19. That kind of came down, right, in FY21 and 22, and players like yourselves actually benefited from there. So, and are you seeing imports from China? Are they coming back now, or what's the experience right now?
Yeah, as far as the Chinese market is concerned, they are the largest producers of minerals in the world, and the supply of the mass market abrasives by the Chinese market is also there. One is it is cheaper than the Indian products. That is the first thing, and that was the advantage in the earlier regime. Now that there are restrictions in China relating to the emission control, and then the energy costs are mounting, and therefore the products sold by the Chinese suppliers, the prices will increase. That will negate the advantage of the cheaper import prices vis-a-vis the prices in India. Therefore, we feel that the advantage of the cheaper products supplied by the Chinese suppliers will not be there, and it will be either on par or it will be higher than the products supplied by us and the other players in India. And therefore, we feel that the demand will only increase. It will not go in the other way.
Right. So one other thing was all these innovative products that you all are launching, and also catering to the new age industry as well. So there was something for lithium-ion battery. There was something for even renewable solar and so on. So what if you look at those products that, or the innovative products that are being launched today, how big would they be? And in next 2-3 years, do you think they can grow much faster than the growth of the company?
Yeah, the growth in the EV market, is increasing mainly in the two-wheeler front, and the amount of increase in the EV market in the four-wheeler front also is substantial. Even though overall level, if you see that it is less than 2%, but the frequency of the increase is very high, and therefore we feel that it will help us. The demand for the battery will increase. If the demand for the battery increases, then the input supplies for the battery manufacturers say. We are working on the high-end products like graphene and graphite, which will be used by the battery manufacturers for increasing the charging capability. and that will help. And the demand for those products will increase, and we are confident that this will cater to the high end of the market.
Right. And these products, because they are slightly more high value added, the economics of these products, are they much better either in terms of margins or even in terms of return ratios?
Yeah, the before going into the margin, first is the acceptability of the product. So it involves a great amount of the test by the suppliers, by the manufacturers, and it involves various cycles. We have we have crossed some of the cycles, and our products have established, and it has been accepted by the OEMs. And we feel that because the entire cycle, first is the product has to be accepted by them. Second is on the application front, it has to be established, and they should feel satisfied with that. After the product gets stabilized, the demand will increase, and then will be in line with their production. So it's a permanent thing. It's a permanent demand, and it will be on the higher side only.
Right. So last question on my
Linked
side
to
before
the-
yeah.
It will
Sorry,
be
go ahead.
linked to the output sales of the OEMs.
Right. Yeah. So last question from my side before I hand to Kunal was, if I look at your return on capital, it's almost like, if I look at it was almost like 20% has been around that. And if it's a good combination of asset turn of, let's say, 1.1 and then pretty decent margins. If I look at all the new products that are coming in, the PLI scheme, all these things, as a CFO, if you sit today and look at, let's say, next 5 years out, do you think that these return ratios can actually improve, let's say, to 25%? And what could drive? Would it be better margins? Would it be better asset turns? What can happen?
It has to be both the sides. It has to increase. First is that you would be aware that for the last 4 years, it is a debt-free company. We are a debt-free company, and then this has really helped us. The internal accruals were used to cater to the capex needs, and to that of the funding for all the M&As. So this has really helped, and then we have to reap the benefits out of this in the periods to come. That is the first thing. And second thing is that when the top line growth is there, which is matched with that of the pass on of the increasing cost, and the sustainability of the margins is also taken care, it will increase the margins. And we feel that the margins will continue to be on the higher front. What we did was we took COVID as a challenge, and then during that time we concentrated on increasing the efficiency parameters in production, in the sourcing plant. We revisited each and every aspect, and we ensured that what are all the avenues available to increase the margins on a sustainable basis. This has really helped us in attacking both the variable cost as well as the fixed cost, which has given advantage of around, say, 150 basis points to 200 basis points increase on a sustainable manner, and we feel that this is sustainable over the periods to come. And the idea of improving the efficiencies and the reducing the cost is has been imbibed in the minds of the people at all levels. So it's like a movement, and then it will continue in the long run also.
Sure, sir.
And we are focusing on the cash flows. We are ensuring that the cash flow is always higher than the sales we make.
Right. Sure, sir. Thank you. Kunal.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for this. Sir, my question is pertaining. First question is pertaining to the solid oxide fuels, part. Recently Bloom Energy, introduced a next generation product. So has our content gone up in that product?
Yeah. See, we are supplying the C channels of the SOFCs to the customer, and the product has already been established, and then we had been supplying to them for almost a decade, and the uh, the 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 other parts of the SOFCs are also being tested, and then it will be replaced by the ceramic products. Therefore, the demand for our ceramic supplies will increase in the near term. So the newer projects of the supplier will we will supply to them for the new projects also, and thereby increasing the demand both in the top line as well as the margin.
Sure. So currently that supplies the SOS will be about what, 70-80 crores in our revenue.
Yeah.
Okay. And with the increasing content, could this be about say 200-300 crore kind of a business in the next 2-3 years?
Yes, it will be. See, it depends on the trend at which the customer establishes his projects, and then accordingly our demand will also increase.
Sure. And sir, do we have enough capacities for this product, or we need to add, given that now the content has also gone up?
At this point of time, our capacities are around say 70 to 75%, and then it can cater to the near demands. And if the demand by the customers increases, we will ensure that the capex are increasing. In fact, we have plans to increase on those lines, and then it will cater to the requirements also.
Sure. Sir, my second question is pertaining to the silicon carbide based ceramics for batteries and energy storage. Where are we in this journey in terms of approach? I mean, at what stage are our products in terms of this approach and supplies?
See, actually, we are not going to manufacture any batteries directly. We will be supplying to the manufacturers. We are an intermediary supplier. We will be giving it to the battery manufacturers. It involves various stages of testing. So first is that our products are to be tested at various stages on the quality front, on the application front, and on the usage front. At each and every stage, it will be tested by the OEM through the external agencies also. So we have crossed various stages, and it's almost in the final levels.
Sure. And sir, what would be our content per battery for this product?
The content in the sense it depends on the demand by the ultimate OEMs.
Okay. And sir, how critical will how
Yeah.
yeah, please sir. So no sir, but if we were to put all the products that you were working on for the battery and energy storage piece, including the silicon carbide based ceramic based silicon carbide, approximately what part of the cost would it turn out to be for the battery manufacturer?
Okay. See, it will work out around 25 to 30% of their supplies.
Their supplies. And sir, how critical are our components for them?
Yeah, without that, you cannot store the energy at all.
Okay, so basically, once we get into a supplier, then it will be a very sticky business in terms of, because it will not be
Correct.
easy for
Correct.
the supplier to change given the criticalness of our products.
Correct. That is why the gestation period taken by the OEMs in testing our products at various stages is happening, and that is why it is taking a long process.
Sure. And sir, any sense on what could be the potential size of this business, say 3 years, 5 years down the line?
It depends on their sales. If the product is accepted, and you can expect a huge size from our end, and it can say more than 25% growth will be there in our top line of the minerals business.
Of that business.
Yeah.
So can this business also be, say, 300, 500 crore business in next 5 years?
Depends on how quick the turnaround happens in the battery industry. It depends on the battery industry is linked to the EVs. The acceptance of the EV is a main question. The acceptance of EV is depend on the charging market. So as soon as the infrastructure for charging is developed, then it will have a bearing on the demand for the EVs. EV will once again have without the batteries it cannot run. The batteries for manufacturing the batteries, our product is the base. So everything is linked.
Sure. And sir, we have one question from Mr. Bhavin. I will unmute him and yeah, Bhavin, please go ahead.
Thanks, Kunal, for the opportunity. So this question is on the VAW as well as the new acquisitions. And correct me if I'm wrong. What I understand is over time you have been forward integrating in VAW with abrasives, and the German acquisition also would have actually helped and accelerated that journey. Because effectively just selling SiC, you would have sold ceramics, and VAW could have acted as a supply source for them, thereby reducing the cost also. So are the current events, actually, in your view, has jeopardized that, or do you believe that maybe a year or two down the line, they will be back on the stream and your long-term goals are on track?
Yeah, see, we feel that the current situation is only a temporary phenomenon and will not last long, and it will come to a conclusion soon. And the advantage of this acquisition is that if you take QME standalone, it's the entire abrasive business and the refractories business can be catered out of our own resources. The raw materials are secured. So we can extend the same thing to the new acquisitions also. Their raw material input requirements are also secured, and the synergy benefit will work like standalone. It will get extended to the entire group. Sure. We don't feel that it is going to it will not affected because of the current situation. We feel that the current situation is only temporary.
Just last question from my side. After these two acquisitions, three actually in the recent past, do you believe that you would take a pause, or because in the past interactions you have highlighted that you need to be local, and that's why you've done these acquisitions in Germany. US is a missing link as of now, and there are certain other pieces also in the super abrasives which are a missing link. So if something comes up now, given the way the situation in EU or US is, are you okay to leverage your balance sheet and
see? You know that our balance sheet is strong and can accommodate leveraging any further any acquisitions in the future also. If an opportunity arises in any geographies in the same areas, certainly we will be taking up and then moving forward. And we feel that the current situation, it is not going to affect our aspirations or the plans.
Thank you so much for taking my questions. Thanks, Kunal.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bhavin. Sir, my next question is pertaining to the high purity, silicon carbide for the semiconductor part of the business. So,
Right.
should the supply start next year? We were targeting it to, start supplying next year.
Yeah, we were, in fact, we are in the final stages where the purity levels of the silicon carbide is taken up to 99.99% level, which we have already attained. And we are in the third decimal, and we feel that we are in the nearing completion stages.
Sure, sir. Mr. Ananthaseshan has joined. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon. My sincere apologies for joining late. Got into a discussion with the chairman, which could not get out of earlier. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sanjeev, sir, you are on mute.
Yeah. Okay.
Sir, thank you very much for joining, Mr. Ananthaseshan. I know you got. Yeah, we were already told that you have been stuck, so no problem here. So, Kunal, maybe I can ask a question to Mr. Ananthaseshan and then.
Yeah, please, sir. Please.
Sir, I actually wanted your view on some of these new materials that you all are talking about. Some of the exciting products which are catering to the new businesses like EVs or lithium-ion battery and so on. Just wanted to understand your path, your thought, your vision on this, like how big these products can be over the next 3, 4, 5 years, or maybe even longer. And what do we bring? How are we bringing in on table? How are we differentiating these?
Okay. The materials what we are talking about here is something which we have been working on for the last couple of years. High purity silicon carbide. When I say high purity, we are talking about purity levels of 4N, which is 99.999.9, and the high purity graphite, which is again which is used for improving the conductivity and the energy density of batteries, and the graphene. Graphene has multiple applications, as you all know. So these are products which has been piloted. In the case of silicon carbide, we are working at a couple of levels. One is in terms of generating or synthesizing the powders of this purity. We have achieved now reasonable levels of purity, rather impurity levels rather than purity levels, because impurities are more important than the purity here, because that's what is used to grow the crystals, the single crystals. And we have also invested in a pilot to not only produce the powders but also the crystals wafers as well. So that's or the boules as they call it. So that will give us an understanding of what really is required to make the powders work for this application. How far are we away from commercialization? I would believe between 9 to 12 months in terms of pilot commercialization of the powders. We have set up a unit or a what I would call a reactor system, which would give us reasonable amounts of volumes to establish consistency of a product quality. In the case of graphite, we've been working with institutes like the SECRI, which is the Central Electrochemical Research Institute, where we have supplied reasonable volumes of high purity graphite for their evaluation. So you may remember that Secre and Cumian, among others, were offered the have been given the license or the technology for making the batteries. While we are not into the batteries itself, but battery materials is what is of interest to us. So this is a part of that program where we start working with Secre and others to kind of establish our products. Uh, the third one, which is graphene, and the graphene, the here the what we are doing is in terms of making intermediates, as I call it. It is not the graphene powder per se, which we are looking at commercializing, but intermediates which would go into coatings, which could be antibacterial, antifungal, or also for making enhancing the mechanical properties of coatings. This could go for industrial coatings. It can go for emissivity coatings in thermal energy protection, for example, inside kilns, and also as additives in terms of building uh, the raw materials for 3D printing. So these are some of the properties of graphene that we are looking at, and we had some difficulties initially in terms of using it as a powder itself, because it's very fine powders. It's very difficult to disperse, and today we have reasonable progress in terms of using it in as intermediates. So that would be the way to go for graphene. So we would be building these intermediates and getting them tested and established in these applications, which would be largely large surface area applications like paints and coatings first, and then infusing them into products like polypropylene or polyethylene or high density polyethylene for wear applications. So that's where we are today. In terms of commercialization of these, as I said earlier, the first one possibly would be the high purity silicon carbide, followed by the intermediates, and then the graphite.
Sorry, sir, in terms of potential size of these businesses, what and what can they be over a period, like let's say next 3, 4, 5 years?
Okay. See, the high purity silicon carbide, it's largely used in power electronics, and different reports put the market size at various levels, starting from between $250 million to $500 million. That's this various reports, and this, I mean, I'm not saying that any of these reports are uh, incorrect, because this depends on the speed at which people would start adopting these materials for whether it is an EV application or a battery management systems. So it is a very fast evolving technologies with the rate at which the unlearning has to happen or the learning has to happen. So people are moving away from a 4-inch wafer to 6 inches, and some now to the 8-inch wafers already. So while the popular ones are still the cheapest ones are still the 4-inch wafers, moving towards a 6-inch and 8-inch wafers would make the processes much more cost efficient. So that is where the R&D is headed, and we would see more and more companies moving towards those sizes. And that also places a lot more challenge on the producer of the powder itself, because having a powder for a 4-inch crystal is completely and has become different challenge for or a 6-inch or an 8-inch crystals. So that's where we are. So we have today, I believe that the silicon carbide single crystal will look at, I mean, carbide monocrystal will see a significant rate of growth. Uh, it may be small today, so $250 million is not a big amount, but I believe that it can grow significantly. So we do have our R&D working on both in India and in Russia, and I'm confident that we would definitely be looking at a commercialization towards the end of this year.
Right. So, if you look at in terms of capex, do you think, sir, it will be like a lot more capex required for these products and currently the kind of asset turns that you have? would this capex be much higher given this, or that's not the case?
See, I would not guesstimate what kind of a capexes we are looking at, because honestly, to make these powders at a pilot level is something, and then to look at what kind of a capexes you need to make it on a scalable scale model is a very different thing. But having said that, we currently using similar infrastructure to what we have, where we produce silicon carbide for the abrasives and refractory applications. But of course, the power controls are different levels of uh, precision, and also the raw materials used to be of much higher order. So in terms of capex, uh, too early to estimate, but I believe that the asset turnover ratios can be much better than what we have.
Right. And so, sir, sorry, I am not a technical person, so I know, sorry for this question, but in
So,
terms of
sorry if I
availability of,
sounded so technical.
no, I'm saying availability of raw material for this kind of business, because today the biggest challenge is raw material for anything, right?
Absolutely, absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
how does that work?
See, the good news for this business of this high purity silicon carbide is that it is not a volume business, right? In the sense that we are not going to make tons and or hundreds of thousands of tons. It could
Right.
be hundreds of tons, but not million tons like what we see in the regular silicon carbide, right? So, at least to start with, because the silicon chips is still continue, it is going to exist. It is not that the silicon is going to disappear. The silicon is still the most popular and the cheapest semiconductor material,
Yes.
right? It is the silicon carbide chips would address an application where it demands a high power carrying capacity. So it is those kind of an applications which would see the use of silicon carbide chips rather than in our normal day-to-day applications of let's say use of semiconductors in washing machine control or a refrigerator control or even in your smartwatch. So that is still going to be a silicon, because that's the cheapest silicon carbide, I mean silicon and semiconductor material we can produce. So the volumes of silicon carbide that would be required for these would be limited, and consequently the volumes of high purity raw material also would be not so much.
Right. Sure, sir. So, you made a comment in your earnings call also that another way, a layman way of looking at this company could be to break it up into high performance materials and
Materials, absolutely.
yeah, and materials. If I look at the business today, how much is high performance, and 2, 3, 4, whatever, 5 years down the line, how much you think you would want the high performance to be?
See, uh, when I say today high performance, I would categorize what we do in technical ceramics and engineered ceramics as high performance. Plus, what we do now we're still supplying silicon carbide, not of this high purity, but for high performance applications like in the semiconductor industry. So even for a normal silicon wafer polishing, one needs silicon carbide for polishing and cutting and polishing. So if I were to put together all these as high performance materials, and some of the materials what we do, some of the products what we do with carbon reinforced polymer composites, so that's also high performance. I would say that in percentage terms, approximately I would between 15 closer to 20% would be off the cuff number, would be the high performance materials. uh, I'm targeting about 30% of our business going forward should be in this space over the next 3 to 5 years. So that is the kind of product mix that we should look at, and and leverage no, the trends. So if we can get into that kind of a region, then uh, it will be a much stronger business than we have today.
Sure. And I'm assuming that from a finance angle, it would mean better margins and more stable earnings on the high performance, right?
Yeah, see there are again it's a, when you say uh, stable margins and stable earnings and better margin, obviously when you're looking going up the value chain, you would aim to have a higher margins, and these products, while they are today very exotic, uh, it'll also tend to be a commodity and when more people adopt it. So while it's going to be, the entry barrier here is going to be uh, the ability to produce those products of a consistent quality, and these are very demanding applications where there is no room for error, there is no room for making a poor quality product, right? uh, so that's the kind of process rigor that we would need to build, and so the margins definitely can be better. In terms of stability of sales, the organization has to balance what we call the real core uh, uh, businesses of what we currently do, which may not be so exotic, but it brings in the cash. So we have to balance both,
Right.
right?
Sure, sir. So last question from my side before I hand to Kunal is just, if you look at your company, where would you like, and you want to look at a global benchmark, either
Yeah.
in your business and maybe other businesses similar, like into, let's say, chemistry businesses or is something more broader, who
Mhm.
would you benchmark yourself against?
Good question. There are quite a. I mean, we have. Uh, if I were to take the businesses as broadly three verticals, right? There are good companies that we deal with. For example, in the mineral space, uh, Imerys is a good company, and I think Saint-Gobain themselves, they have a nice range of product groups in the silicon carbide space, whether it is in high purity silicon carbide or in performance ceramics. Uh, and as I said earlier, Imerys is a good comparative company in terms of their methods of operations, their uh, uh, the governance and the ESG practices that they have, and we believe that we in many of these product groups we are equally good, and there are definitely also room for improvement. Uh, in terms of sheer size and variety in the mineral space, I guess we are right up there with many of the leading producers in the world. So that's and it has not been an easy journey in and we all know uh, what's the issues that we have to handle currently, at least in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. But notwithstanding that, uh, as just as a producer of a basket of high performance minerals, synthetic minerals, and powders, uh, but for sheer range, we would possibly be right up there. In the abrasives, uh, definitely there are giants. Uh, you have the 3M, you have the Nortons, at least globally. We have the Tyrolit, and we have groomed ourselves mostly as an Indian company all along, uh, with exposure to international markets, largely in the precision side. But going forward, we we believe that the abrasives will continue to play an important role in manufacturing in industry. Uh, it is it is still going to be the workhorse of any manufacturing. The grinding wheel is not going to disappear so soon. 3D printing is a forming method, but it's still quite a long way off in terms of volume business. So uh, I think we can definitely grow in abrasives into a global player. We have the appetite, we have the uh, elements of the growth foundation now. Strong domestic presence, increasing presence in manufacturing in Europe, larger portfolio of high performance products, and that should take us a good good distance in terms of creating an abrasives business globally respected. ceramics, it's what I would call a very innovation intensive, customer uh, customer driven, and co-creating business. So this is where all the technical talent in the company would be working on in terms of creating those unique applications. And uh, yeah, ceramics is definitely one area which would grow as a material uh, in many applications, whether it is in manufacturing, in engineering, in space, automotive. A lot more ceramics we are going to see in the future. So uh, I believe that each one of these verticals have their own uh, the benchmark companies to look at and compare and grow. In the case of ceramics, I think there are a lot many companies.
Yes.
So each one is a niche. So whether it is Hoosted, whether it is Morgan, whether it is uh, global companies, Sengoban, LCC, Korea, yeah, Noritake. So a bunch of companies out there, and each one a specialty company.
Great, sir. Thank you. So I always wonder, given that you have so many products and so many industry verticals that you're addressing, is sales a challenge in terms of, how do you get sales teams to go and actually market this to clients?
We are I would categorize ourselves as not one company. It's individual companies, small boutique companies who have their own specialty salespeople, specialty application teams, and each one is looking themselves uh, as a complete company, right? So the sales guys in abrasives would be very thorough in what they do in abrasives division. Similarly, in ceramics, the sales teams are absolutely thorough in what they do in ceramics. So yeah, I don't see a problem with that because each team knows what they have to drive and get it done, because it's catered to by different teams. It is not same sales team driving everything.
Right. Sure. So there's a question from fund manager is asking, do you see the company reaching 1,000 crores profit in 5 years?
So it's everybody's desire is to do much better than what we are currently doing. So yeah, 5 years. If you ask me on February 23rd, the same question would have a different answer. The world is so volatile.
Right. Hmm.
So so
But
we
I'm
should
assuming that this February 23rd is just a blip and you move on.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, that is nothing. There is no life without hope. So we have to hope that somebody will see sense and soon, and the world will get back to its normal levels, and life will, move on. I mean, I think there are more important things in life than just this is
Yeah. So
conflict. Yeah.
assuming that that's status, we go back to status quo soon. 1,000 crores should be possible, sir. Given so many interesting products, given the growth that we are starting to see even in India, and
Yeah.
given
Of
China plus
course.
one, given all that, all the factors that are in your favor.
We'll try our best.
Right.
And as you said, there are elements of growth all in place or being built brick by brick. But I see the there's no reason why we shouldn't have that aspiration, and we are not having it. Yeah.
Kunal, sorry.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Sir, I have two questions from my side. First one was for abrasives. While in abrasives we are largely India dominated, there is a large market out there, and there is tremendous opportunity, and we are well geared. But what do you see as the biggest challenge in converting this abrasive business globally? what are the key challenges? Because opportunities, we are still,
Absolutely.
market share is small comparatively what it is in India. So,
Absolutely.
what do you think are the key challenges in, converting this large opportunity?
See, abrasives, it's the nature of the business itself, which is a, uh, I won't call it restricting the growth, but the nature of the business is it is a global business, but very, very local in nature, right? So if you have to win in various markets, we have to manufacture in the local markets.
Hmm.
In the case of because abrasives and the volume of abrasives which are sold, whether it is in coated abrasives or the mass market, the thin wheels as we call it, which goes onto the power tools, they are all very fast consumables. The paper does not last more than half an hour. The
Right.
wheel does not last more than half an hour. So what happens is it will be made locally, distributed locally, used locally,
Hmm.
and if we have to have the entire value chain very, very efficient, then we can win in these markets.
Hmm.
So in India, the reason for our success is, I would believe that we have been making very consistent products. We have a good quality image built. We have a good team of application engineers working on these applications, and a wide distribution network of 3-4 decade strong. I mean, so for a newcomer to come in and build that kind of strength is very difficult in a local market. So it has to be growth through possible acquisitions, right? So when we go into the here again, the difference is on a precision abrasives. It still is easy to carry a precision abrasive by distance, over distance. It is more freight friendly than uh, the mass market products. So, and it is also driven by application engineering. So it is easy to have an application engineering team located in many of these markets, precision markets, but the volume of business would not be as high as you see in a mass market. So there are two different nature of abrasives. So in Europe, like when we wanted to grow in these areas and having a manufacturing presence, the route is through acquisitions.
Sure.
And same thing would be in any other market as well.
Sure. So we would be targeting Europe as our key market or US our key market initially, because I think US is still we have very small presence.
We are very moderate in US. We are only in the precision area, but there is a big market for both the coated abrasives, uh, precision coated abrasives, as I would call it, and also the in the case of Europe, the acquisitions what we have done now in the coated abrasives has use or has applications across geographies, whether it is in India, Europe, and America. Obviously, the first market would be to regain the markets in Europe through Abuco. And in the case of Rhodius, built on what we have as a very strong brand, very innovative product range, uh, and build those markets in Europe, and transfer that strength to India, because India is one market which is a much bigger market, where we don't have till now a good product to support that market. So I'm looking forward to leveraging the Rhodius brand and the strength to build that market in India.
And sir, what would be our market share in Europe currently in abrasives?
Uh, See, when you look at defining, I would say it's I mean our market share through Rhodius. Rhodius, I think market share. I mean the more definition of abrasives, with super abrasives, all of them together could be anywhere between $2 to $3 billion worth, and yeah, much smaller. It's very small in terms of the product group that we are dealing with. uh, yeah, I can't work out a number, but then but in the space that we are operating in the thin wheel space, I think Rhodius is a very well known player, uh, very respected player.
Sure, sure. And sir, lastly, if I may request, if you can spend a minute or two on the current trends that you're seeing in the market across abrasives and EMD.
In EMD.
Abrasives, EMD, and ceramic, current trends that you're seeing, probably the near-term trends that you're seeing in the market over the last 2 3 months.
Uh, so the mineral business as a raw material business is going through good times or tough times depending on where you are looking at. Uh, the the good news is there is a continued demand for these materials, whether it is through for abrasives or refractories, uh, or for other applications like floor laminates and metallurgy applications. So those are foundry applications. So those are increasing demands, and these demands are not going to die down soon. Uh, Specifically for, but what's also happening is for the minerals business, whether it's a natural minerals or for synthetic minerals, energy costs are on the up. So energy costs are very critical to synthetic minerals more than the natural minerals. The demands of cleaner production processes are on the up, which means people have to invest in emission controls. People have to invest in uh, back filters, electrostatic precipitators, etc., to ensure that emissions are limited. And labor is not getting any cheaper. But so what's happening is in China at least, the energy costs, the labor costs have been on the up. And while China, because of its advantage on low cost manufacturing and high volume manufacturing, have led the world in terms of uh, the capacities of production of minerals, is now finding it increasingly difficult to produce and distribute at much cheaper prices than what is available in the rest of the world. Gives us an opportunity in India and for manufacturers who have built volumes, but also built volumes based on the strength of cleaner production technologies, and uh, and that is where we are positioned today. Whether it is in Russia in terms of silicon carbide or infused aluminas in India, our production technologies are far cleaner than many of the companies in this business. And not only on the clean production side, but also in terms of energy efficiencies, I would believe that we are among the better position ones. So that is the trend we are saying. How do we lower the energy consumption of these minerals? How do we emit lower? And how do we waste lower? So that's a theme which runs across all the minerals producers, and whoever's getting better at it is a clear winner over the others.
Sure.
In the case of abrasives, the precision abrasives, while it is moving more and more towards super abrasives for for polishing, finishing, with this, it's also largely due to the fact that the 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 forming processes are near net shape forming, so it leaves very little room for removal of materials. Many of the processes are very closer to the tolerances, so the demand is of for polishing and finishing and polishing more and more. uh, while the productivity driven abrasives, which are all the thin wheels of coated abrasives, they would get to be more and more mechanized. So people would use more and more power tools to mount up coated abrasives or a thin wheel for faster cutting. So even in thin wheels, gone are the days when people were looking at life. People look less life, so they don't want to have long life. They want to have very little life, but very fast cutting. And that's on one hand. But on the abrasives for which goes into uh, larger machines, for example, there people want long life because their robotics have started coming in. So many people are using robotic grinders. And robotic grinders means that they want to see the abrasives stay there forever, uh, logically. So these are multiple trends that are happening in abrasives. So which is just no longer cost driven. It is performance driven. It is life driven. It is design and very application intensive as well. Ceramics, it's the at least the ceramic industry where we are participating, the markets where we are participating, has always been technically intensive business. So where we have to work with the customers along to see their application trends, whether it is, for example, an alternative energy business, solid oxide fuel cells or the hydrogen electrolyzers. We have to have a very close working relationship with the customers and develop products, develop technologies for them along with them. So these are some of the trends I'm seeing. In abrasives, precision abrasives, obviously, the move towards electric vehicles from the ICE will happen, but speed at which will happen also depends on the infrastructure availability and the adoption rate of these vehicles. So there's a combination of charging infrastructure, combination of how the battery technology itself will evolve. Whether people would have high density fast charging batteries and what are those materials which would have a play in them. That's going to be the couple of drivers for the change from ICEs to EVs. It's happening. It'll happen, and we have to uh, learn faster to adapt to this change.
Sir, and lastly, are you seeing any changes in demand trends versus the last quarter? Are you seeing any slowdown in demand in India or any overseas market in the last 2-3 months? Any changes there you're seeing on the demand side?
See, the last Q2 and Q3 where the pickup in demand was much more, I would say, noticeable and significant. Uh, while in comparison to Q4 of last year, I mean, I compared this Q4 to last Q4, the demand, especially in the abrasive side, uh, is still there, but not as fast as it was in Q2 and Q3. In specific segments, I would say in precision abrasives and automobiles. Even now, I'm seeing a little bit in kind of a slowdown in construction. Quoted in bond into these or because of the fuel price increases, etc. Maybe would take a quarter to see.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Sanjeev, sir?
No, sir, I think that was really great. Thank you so much for spending a valuable time with us.
Not at all. My sincere apologies again for joining so late. So it was just not expected. So possibly another element of the volatile world we are living in.
No, not at all, sir. I understand, but also you've actually spent a lot of time explaining, giving us detailed replies. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, Mr. Padmanabhan. Thank you, Mr. Chandramouli. And that's all I wanted to say was, I know there are near-term headwinds and Russia issue and so on, but we feel that you are in a very exciting situation over next 4-5 years. I think it looks very good, and sir, all the very best for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sanjeev.
Thank you, sir, for your time. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Padmanabhan,
Thank you.
sir. Thank you, Chandramouli, sir.
Thank you.